Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you our 2013 NFL team preview. We're breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to take a look at their offense, their defense, as well as their special teams to see what we can expect from the Chiefs this upcoming season.
All eyes will be on the Chiefs quarterback situation this year as Alex Smith comes over from the San Francisco 49ers, and he's getting that fresh start that he so deserves. This is a guy that put in his work out there in San Francisco. Just unfortunate incident had his job taken from him by Colin Kaepernick. Now he gets a fresh start with Kansas City, a lot of weapons around him. They're going to depend on him to get that passing game going and to take them where they want to be. He's capable enough. He's mobile. He brings a lot of tools to the table for Andy Reid. And there's going to be an interesting battle for the backup quarterback position. You look at Chase Daniel, who spent a lot of years backing up Drew Brees. He's a very good quarterback in his own right. He's going to be battling undrafted rookie free agent Tyler Bray from Tennessee. And the one thing that you see from Bray is that whip for an arm. This guy can throw it all over the football stadium. Here's a guy who had a second-round grade on, ended up going undrafted. The Chiefs got themselves a steal. I think Andy Reid will groom him into the quarterback he wants to be, and they may have their quarterback of the future on the roster in Bray. The Chiefs have themselves a legit superstar in the backfield in Jamal Charles. You look at his career, 5.8 yards a carry. That's legendary right there, and he's always ripping off 60-plus yard runs. He has over 4,500 yards rushing and 17 touchdowns. This is a guy you can feed the football to 20 to 25 times. But backing him up, I'm intrigued by what they drafted in this year's draft, and now Davis out of Arkansas. If he has shaken the injury bug, this will be another steal for Kansas City. He has the shiftiness, he has the vision, he has the underrated inside running ability, and also has that breakaway speed. So when you look at this running back tandem as a whole, I think Andy Reid will put these guys in situations where he's going to run off tackle, and they're going to have plenty of opportunity to catch the football out of the backfield, making this a versatile rushing attack with guys that can do damage in both the running game as well as the passing game. And they also get a very good fullback in the trade with Anthony Sherman coming over from the Arizona Cardinals, who does a good job with lead blocking, but also has the soft hands to catch the football in the flats. When you look at the receiving core, this is where you have a question about the Kansas City Chiefs passing game. Dwayne Bowe is a superstar. This is a guy that catches everything thrown his way, has gotten better each and every year, and is fearless going across the middle. Opposite of him, they're still trying to develop a number 2 option that's consistent. Jonathan Baldwin has all the athletic ability and the talent in the world. He just has to put it together for a full 16-game season. Tremendous hands, big body that can high point a football. They bring over Donnie Avery from the Indianapolis Colts, hoping he can be that number 2 guy. And they still have Dexter McCluster, who's a wild card. You can utilize him in the backfield, in the slot. He's a playmaker that you want on your football team no matter where you try to find a spot. Keep an eye on Devin Wiley and Junior Hemingway as 2 guys they drafted last year that can also contribute. So they really don't have a number 2 option. A bunch of guys vying for that 2nd and 3rd spot. That's going to be something you want to keep an eye on moving forward. At the tight end spot, I think they are set. There's a wealth of talent here at the disposal for the quarterbacks. You look at Tony Moriarty. If he can stay healthy, he's one of the better tight ends in the league. Burst onto the scene as a rookie, has been injured ever since. They also bring over Anthony Fasano from the Miami Dolphins. A lot of people knock Fasano. I'm a big fan of his game. He may not be the fastest. He's not going to outrun you guys, but this is a guy that can get open, catch the football, and get first down. That's all you want. And he drafted Travis Kelce in the 3rd round from the Cincinnati Bearcats. And here's another player that can get open. So when you look at the tight end position as a whole, they may actually be their 2nd and 3rd options at receiver until the wide receiving core catches up to where they are right now. I believe the Chiefs have one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League. They drafted Eric Fisher 1st overall, and he's going to play the right tackle spot or left tackle spot. Either way, they're going to be solid, because when you look at the other side, there's Brendan Albert, whom they're going to re-sign, and he's another guy that's very talented, one of the premier tackles in the game. So they're fine on the bookends. On the interior, they get back Rodney Hudson from injury, who I feel as though is going to be a perennial Pro Bowler once he stays healthy. He's going to play center, and he can also play guard. Getting him back 100% is key to the interior offensive line. John Asamoah, the 4th-year player, has gotten better each and every year, and he's entrenched at one of the guard positions. And on the opposite side, there's going to be a big battle. They bring in Jeff Schwartz from the Minnesota Vikings via free agency, and he's going to compete with Jeff Allen, a guy they drafted last season out of Illinois, who can play tackle in the pinch, but he struggled a little bit last season. So I would look for Schwartz to win that job and have Jeff Allen as your swing guy that can play both guard and tackle in the backup role. And speaking of the depth on this offensive line, I'm a big fan of Donald Stevenson and what he can provide at both both left and right tackle. And 6th round draft pick Eric Kush, whom they drafted out of Cal PA, a Division II powerhouse. Very good center. I think he has a legit chance not only to make the roster, but see significant minutes in the depth role. So I'm fine with the offensive line for Kansas City. Now let's move over to the defensive side of the football and look at the defensive line. Last year's 1st round pick, Dontae Poe, played some solid football last year, 38 tackles, but he has to play like a top 15 pick this year. You can't have 3rd round production if you were a top 15 pick. They also need Jarrell Poe, whom they drafted a couple of years ago, to be that space eater that they envision him to be. This is the guy that's the biggest one on the roster, but he hasn't logged significant minutes as of yet. And quite honestly, Anthony Toribio has played better than him, and that's why he's seen significant time as a backup. On the defensive end spot, the 5 technique, they bring in Mike DeVito from the New York Jets. Not a difference maker, but a high effort guy, and that's something that they need because they really want Tyson Jackson to step up and be what they envisioned him to be when he was a top 5 pick. So there's some questions along this defensive front. Allen Bailey is another player they selected in the 3rd round. They're hoping he realizes his potential, but there's a lot of potential, not a lot of production. This unit has to play better in 2013. You'd be hard-pressed to find 3 better starting linebackers than what you find in Kansas City with Justin Houston, Derek Johnson, and Tamba Ali. Houston is a guy in 2011 started to come on later in the season, and that carried over to 2012 as he had a breakout campaign. So 2013 looks like to be even bigger than what it was last season for Houston. And Tamba Ali is still one of the more feared pass rushers in the game who's looking to get back to his double-digit sack production of 2011 and 2012. And in the 7th round of this year's draft, they selected Mike Catapano from Princeton, who was a defensive end in college that will transition to an outside linebacker. And here's a guy that was a constant nuisance in the Ivy League, and he should be the same way as a depth guy for the Kansas City Chiefs. On the interior, they have Derek Johnson, who's a very good linebacker. This is a guy that can play both the running game, does a great job in shooting the gaps, and dropping back in coverage and playing the pass. The biggest question will be who will play the other inside linebacker next to Johnson. There's a host of guys ready to compete for that spot. They bring in Akeem Jordan from the Philadelphia Eagles via free agency, as well as Zach Dials from the Tennessee Titans. And in the 4th round, they drafted Nico Johnson, who was a very productive college football player at Alabama, playing a 3-4 defense for Nick Saban. Can he win the starting job over 2 veterans? That's going to be the biggest battle you want to see throughout the course of the season, but I'm pretty sure all 3 guys will see significant playing time this year. I'm also a big fan of what the Chiefs have in the secondary and the improvements that they've made to get better. Last year, Brandon Flowers, still one of the premier cornerbacks in the league. They let go Brandon Carr alongside of him in hopes that Stanford Routt could be that guy. That failed horribly as he was released mid-season. Now they bring in free agent Sean Smith from the Miami Dolphins. Big fan of his game. 6'3", 200 pounds, a guy that can match up with bigger wide receivers and has the ball skills to make plays. And that's what you want in the secondary. You want guys that can get the football back for your offense that are willing to compete for 50-50 passes. And they also bring in Donta Robinson, a wily vet, 11 years in the league, coming over from the Atlanta Falcons. And they still have Jaleel Brown, who will provide some good nickel and dime depth in the secondary. At the safety spot, I know they drafted Sanders Cummings from Georgia as a cornerback, but he may be a better fit as safety, so he's going to provide depth behind Eric Berry, who in the latter part of last season got back to form to what made him one of the better safeties in the game. A guy that's a strong safety that can cover wide receivers and tight ends, that can run up and lay the pop on an opposing runner. They also signed free agent Quentin Dips from the Houston Texans to provide depth as well. At the free safety spot, Kendrick Lewis could be one of the better free safeties in the game if he can stay healthy. When he's out there, he's making play after play, but the problem is he's not healthy enough to be effective. So you have to worry about the depth at the free safety position. And I would keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Malcolm Bronson out of McNeese State. He's going to be returning from an injury, but he definitely has the ball skills to play the center field. Something to keep an eye on throughout the course of this year. Chiefs enjoy a very good kicking game with Ryan Suckup as the kicker. Here's a guy that's deadly from 40 to 49 yards, went 10 out of 12 last year and 2 for 2 out of 50. So he's looking to make his first Pro Bowl appearance. Maybe he can make that this season. And Dustin Colquitt made his first Pro Bowl appearance last year after punting for over 46.8 yards a punt. So the kicking game is not a problem in Kansas City. The question lies in the return game. Who's going to be the returner? Maybe kickoff returner can be held by Sean Drone, but you also look at the punt return game. Maybe guys like Dexter McCluster, Devin Wiley, those are the type of guys that could compete for that spot. So there's a slight question about the return game, but none about the kickoff and coverage units. Now let's take a look at what the Chiefs have on the roster. Number one, excellent linebacker play with the ability to provide pass rush. I think that right there is a key. You get to the quarterback, you win a lot of football games. Two, they have a game breaker at running back. We saw that last year in many games where Jamal Charles only needs a crease and he can break for a 91-yard touchdown run. And very good coaching staff. That's one thing that's underrated. This new staff is impressive, top to bottom, both offensively and defensively. Now, what they lack, they don't have the consistency at the number 2 wide receiver position. They don't have strong defensive line play. And as of yet, they don't have the continuity with the scheme. All of these are 3 things that could derail what could be a promising season for Kansas City. For optimism for Kansas City, if you can apply pressure in this league, you're going to be in and could win a lot of games. They also have great special teams play and they can run the football, so that's a lot of reason for optimism for Kansas City fans. Cause for concern would be if the passing game stumbles out of the gate. That could be something that could derail their chances of winning the division, so they got to get off on the right foot. A number 2 receiver has to develop and a tight end play has to be consistent in order for this team to be successful. The road to the Super Bowl for the Chiefs goes as follows. Number 1, the consistent play from the quarterback position and tie it into the passing game with number 2, development of the receiving core. If they can develop a number 2 and number 3 option, if they come to play, they don't have to be world beaters. They just have to be fairly competent. Then they can have a lot of success this year. And third, defensive line takes that huge step to where they become a nuisance and not rely mostly on the linebackers. If that defensive line can get pressure, it could be a long year for teams in the AFC West. I have the Chiefs finishing second in the AFC West, right underneath the Broncos. When you look at what they bring to the table, running game, defense can get pressure, very good secondary. So this is a team that will challenge the Broncos for that division. Don't get me wrong, this is a very tough team, which is why I picked them to finish first last year. So they still have enough talent on the roster to get it done. They have a stable quarterback situation now and a very good coaching staff. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Chiefs challenge for that last playoff spot. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Chief Fan Forums for always showing football game plan support.